Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Mr. President, eminent shuyukh, excellencies, professors, students, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor and pleasure to stand here before you today to say a few words about civilization and change. I am immensely grateful and appreciative of your kind hospitality at ISAR, at esteemed university, and very grateful for not only the hospitality extended to this poor soul, but also to some of my colleagues and students from Libya at ISAR and at some of the universities in Istanbul. We thank your welcoming spirit and hope to reciprocate by hosting you in Libya very soon, inshallah. Today's topic is civilization and change. And it is very interesting how words are translated. It is interesting that civilization is called Madaniyat in the posters and Hadara in Arabic. I would have preferred to actually speak of Hadara even in Arabic, to speak of Madaniyat or Al-Madaniyat even in the Arabic translations. But it is very interesting, the semantic fields of civilization around civility and city tasks, and also the semantic fields around Hadara or Hadar versus the Badawa, as in Ibn Khaldun, rahmatullahi alayhi, Muqaddimah, and various other thinkers. And also Madaniya, around the notion of Medina. And I would actually like to start there with the Madaniyat and the Medina, because I believe that it's very, very important for the revival, for the ihya of this great ummah of Islam to actually, in many ways, go back to Medina. And Medina as a historical reality, Medina as an archetype, and Medina as a paradigm for being and for being together, living together. I come to you from Libya, though I live in the United Arab Emirates, and despite my resignations, I am still the ambassador of Libya to the UAE, so I'm actually not coming exactly from Libya, but I come from a Libya that is actually looking for a new civility, a new Madaniyah, a new civilization. A Libya that has just been through the Arab Spring of its own, and I believe that there are multiple Arab Springs and not just one spring, and even within Libya there are multiple springs. And I take this opportunity to wish well and pray for our brothers and sisters in Syria and in other countries where Muslims are suffering in their seeking of a better way of life and of a true freedom. So I come to you with this question not being a theoretical one. This is a very concrete and important question that has to be existentially and practically, pragmatically answered. How are we to establish a new Madaniyah? How are we to establish a new civilization? How are we to live together in a wholesome and healthy, prosperous and happy way? And I agree totally with the previous speakers when they speak about sa'adat or happiness being the goal. This is a classical goal. It was the telos of the good life in Aristotle in his Nicomachean Ethics. And it is also the goal that Farabi spoke about and Ibn Sina amongst the philosophers, but also many other mutakallimun or theologians of Islam, many Sufis of Islam, many jurists of Islam spoke of the Sa'adat al-Darain, the happiness in both abodes, the here and the hereafter. So it's not just the here. So how are we to live together in a way that is conducive to happiness and to a prosperous way of being? Now, if we say that civilization or Madaniyah or Madaniyat, as you say, if it has to do with Medina, is there something that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and his Sahaba alayhim, and his community, his early community in Medina, do they have things to teach us today about how to live in a civil way, how to have civility? Can we have a Madani civilization that is truly in honest and authentic inheritance of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? Can we have a civilization that has what the Mashayikh call Wirata Muhammadi? Can we have a civilization that is custodian to the trust of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? If we go to Medina al-Munawwara, it is very, very interesting to look at the establishment of the very first mosque, and in essence the center of civility in Medina. And one of the most interesting openings of the foundation of this civilization was the story of the camel that was allowed to roam where it may, and they let it choose the place for the center in a way. It is very interesting that a camel chooses the very center of civility in Islam. And what is the justification that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam gives? It is very simple. Da'uha fahiya ma'mura. Let her go because she is ordered by Allah azza wa jalla. This very simple story, very beautiful story, teaches us that civility ultimately is established by Allah azza wa jalla. You cannot have a civilization without the will of Allah. You cannot have a civilization that you egotistically impose or somehow cognitively engineer yourself. There is a sense of taslim or submission to Allah Azza wa Jal, a willingness to let Allah Azza wa Jal teach you where to start. That is very, very, very important. So the Madaniya of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam actually starts with letting go. Starts with letting go into the very infinite wisdom of Allah Azza wa Jalla. Meaning, if we are to establish a new civilization, if we are to renew our civilization, if we are to achieve a true ihya of our civilization, we must learn to pray to Allah Azza wa Jalla, to begin with dua to Allah Azza wa Jalla, to have the broken-heartedness, the intisar, and the feeling of utter incapacity, which the Mashayikh call the ajaz, so that Allah Azza wa Jalla will teach our ignorance and will support our weakness and will show us the way. So civilization is not a super ego imposed thing. It is not like the right that Hitler tried to impose on the Germans or that Stalin tried to impose on the Russians. Civilization Islam doesn't work like this. It is not an arrogance, it is a humility. It is not a civilization of istikbar, but a civilization of inkisar. It is not a civilization of boosting one's self, but boosting Allah's infinite wisdom and power and knowledge. So it is important, this camel idea, this da'uha fahiya ma'mura. Every one of us has to do this act in one's heart, to realize that no matter how hard you work, you must preface all your work and pre-position all your work with this very simple act of taslim. Aslim, taslim. This is very important. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam sent his letters to the ISAR and the Kisra of his time. Each half has a ISAR and a Kisra that wants to say, I am the civilized, I want to impose civilization, I want to build a better country. Yes, this is fine that you're so enthusiastic, but you must submit your heart to Allah Azza wa Jalla first and ask Him for the wisdom and the knowledge, because it's very easy to delude oneself and to think that you're doing good things when you're actually doing bad things. The second thing that we learn from the Madaniya of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is that after this act of submission of da'uha fahiya ma'mura, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam actually pre-planned the mosque. And for those architects amongst us and engineers, it is important to learn that even design and AutoCAD is based on Sunnah, Nabawiyya Sharia. Because Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam took a stick and actually drew the perimeter of the mosque. He actually made the blueprint for the mosque. So, though you submit to Allah Azza wa Jal, you also have to pre-plan and you have to conceive of an architectonic that you want to follow, an architecture that you want to follow. So it is not egotistical to do that once you have submitted your heart to Allah Azza wa Jal. You know, people years ago, and when I was teaching in Malaysia in the late 90s, we were talking about Islamization of this, Islamization of that. The most important thing to Islamize is the heart. Once your heart is Islamized, everything you do becomes Islamic. If your heart is Islamized and you are a doctor, you will do Islamic medicine. And if your heart is Islamized and you do architecture, you will produce naturally, and naturally I mean here, fitra that I not natural as in taba'i, being an Ash'ari, I have to point this out. You will do it out of the very, from the inside, right? Because the heart is transformed. So we need to look at the transformation of the heart. So let us go back to Medina. We see the act of submission to Allah Azza wa Jal. We see the act of pre-planning and architecture. But we also see something very interesting. Very early on, we see an act of waqf. Waqf, a gifting of the land on which the mosque is to be built, and putting it in trust for all subsequent generations. When you go to Medina Munawwara today to visit Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, you are actually visiting a waqf established in his time, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and you're also visiting many multiple awqaf that became accumulated around that waqf. So I stand here with a microphone paid for by waqf, listening, talking to students whose scholarships are paid by waqf, some professors whose salaries are paid by waqf. This is very important. The revival of waqf in Turkey is a very important thing to learn from. You know, many Arabs today want to emulate the Turkish model, but it's very difficult when you ask them what do you mean by that, to pinpoint exactly what it is. But one of the keys to the success of the revival of Islamic studies in Turkey is waqf. And one of the most destructive things most Arab rulers did as soon as they came to power was to destroy the institutions of waqf. This happened in Egypt and weakened Al-Azhar. It happened in Tunisia and weakened Zaytuna. It happened in Libya and they weakened Jambu. It happened in many countries. And once you dry up the waqf, it's very difficult to function after that. So civilization, if we want to have a revival of civilization, we must have a revival of awqaf. And when we say revival of awqaf, we don't just mean reviving the waqf in its juridical form, but also modernizing the way we do awqaf management. Because one of the reasons awqaf degenerated and eventually were destroyed was the fact that there was some corruption in the awqaf, and there was abuse in the awqaf. If we use today's methods of transparency and audit and control and checks and balances to make sure the awqaf are well managed, we will be able to have a truly remarkable civilization. So these are the rules that we get from Medina of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The act of submitting to Allah's will, the act of planning and design, and also the act of actually doing a trust. Because none of us will live an infinite number of years. We are all finite. Even if God gives you 130 years of life, may Allah give you abundant and long and prosperous life, we still die. And civilization depends for its thriving on continuity and on accumulation. You cannot have accumulation with individual lives. You have to have institutions. And the awqaf are a remarkably important set of institutions to revive. And the Muslims in the past had remarkable awqaf. In Syria, they had awqaf to care for the old animals, so that the kids would have a place to stay. There was a waqf for replacing broken jars that the servants would break, so they would give them from the shop so that the owner of the jar would not be so upset. So this kind of compassion, this kind of care, this kind of intimate holiness, intimate kindness is important to preserve in the awqaf. And without the awqaf, it is impossible to have a truly Muslim identity. So We talked about the element of submission, the element of design, the element of waqf. But also, if we go back to the Medina of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, we find the element of rahmah. And I know it may sound very strange to say that civilization is about rahmah. But if we want to truly have a Muhammadan civilization, this civilization must be a custodian of Ar-Rahman al-Muhda, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. If we ask what is the essence of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and we are far too small to ask about his essence. But Allah Azza wa Jal teaches us about his essence. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barak alayhi. His essence is rahmah. He is Ar-Rahmatul Muhda, Rahmat lil Alameen. So if you want to do anything truly Islamic, you must exemplify this Muhammadanism, if you want to call it, this Rahmah character. You have to be Rahmani in your character. If you do not exhibit the Rahmah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in your family, with yourself, with your teachers, with your students, with your community, then you are not living a truly Islamic life. We have this amazing phenomenon of politicized Islam these days. And I have the utmost respect for anybody who wants to live for an important idea that transcends their own ego or self. But let us be careful not to forget the Rahmah dimension of what Islam is about. I mean, if somebody is cruel in the name of establishing Islam, if somebody kills civilians in the name of establishing Islam, if somebody is nasty to his father and mother in the name of establishing Islam, I say that he is deluded. He is not really establishing Islam, he is establishing pseudo-Islam. Things that are really of his ego that he paints with Islamic paint. If you are kind, and if you are compassionate, and if you are caring, then that is truly Islam. So, tarahum, and this is very important, ala wazn tafa'ul, so it's actually a dialectic, a dynamic of exchange of rahmah. You give rahmah, you take rahmah, and it is not a coincidence that the first hadith that our mashayikh teach us, and that is the musalsal bil-awwaliyah, is the hadith of Qala Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Ar-Rahimuna yarhamuhum ar-Rahman, irhamu man fil ard, yarhamukum man fis sama. Those who are compassionate, Allah Azza wa Jalla will show them compassion. Have compassion or mercy upon those on earth, and the one in heaven will have compassion on you. So that means if you want to have a civility of compassion, you must practice compassion. If you want to have a truly genuine, authentic Madaniyah that is truly based on the Medina of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, then you must go back to the practice of compassion. It is very significant that the very first act of forming citizenry in the Medina is an act of making people brothers and sisters of each other. The Muhajirun and the Ansar splitting what they've got. And this wasn't done in a communist manner of Stalinist imposition of public ownership. It was done in the most authentically individual, personal manner. So and so is the brother of so and so. A specific person takes another brother as his brother and splits his property with him, and he does it because of his personal wanting to do something nice and kind. So the commonality of Islam is not a communism, and the distribution of goods in Islam happens by persons who willingly do this because they are convinced in their heart that doing so is pleasing to Allah Azza wa Jal and is part of being an authentic Muslim. So we cannot have a civility or a true civilization that is based on greed. You know, people want to establish Islamic states and Islamic communities and so on, and we find that a small number of business interests control vast resources and are totally mindless of the suffering of the poorer members of the community. This is not Islam. But it's also not Islam to simply confiscate private property and to try to impose socialism as Gaddafi tried to do in Libya. That is also not Islam. What is very important is that the sharing spirit is internalized, that the tarahum is internalized, so that people out of their own good nature, goodwill and good intentions treat the others with respect and share with the others, and get to the point that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says is a prerequisite of Iman, of not being able to sleep knowing that your neighbor is hungry. That is an internalized kind of sharing. It has nothing to do with the state imposing on you anything. It has to do with the dhamir or your conscience and your internalizing of the suffering of your fellow community members. So these are some of the features, and I have to try to truncate some of what I needed to say because of the time, because I am told that the rule for eating at 12 is an absolute rule, that we cannot go beyond 12 o'clock, and I want to leave some time for questions and answers. So to establish Madaniyah, to revive Madaniyah, to go back to a genuine Madaniyah, we need these elements of trust in Allah Azza wa Jalla, design and architectonic, careful design, al-qaf, and most importantly the faraha, that is the basis of this civilization. Now, in order to have this kind of teaching, we need to revive many of the sciences of Islam, the ulum al-Islamiyya, and we need to do it not superficially. There is no lack in Islamic Qur'an these days. I mean, we have lots of tapes of speeches, we have multiple thousands of books upon books, but what's interesting, we have very little research and work at the deep levels of, for example, Ilm Kalam. I mean, when was the last time we produced an Ilm? When was the last time we produced a Baqilan? And not to upset the Maturidis. When was the last time we produced an Abu Mu'in in Nasr? Okay? We need to actually have that kind of abundance of very deep thinking. And I'm very, very happy about the institutions that are now being built with much care and dedication here in Turkey, because they are becoming the kinds of centers we need for reflection on Ilm al-Kalam, for elaboration of Ilm al-Kalam, for re-elaborating Ilm al-Kalam. And in order to do this, we need to produce a very special kind of student, a very strange kind of student, somebody who reads Sharh al-Maqasid and Sharh al-Mawaqif, and who knows Abu Mu'in Nasri's works and knows Qaftazani's works and Fiji, and we need to have people who know all this, but who also at the same time know hermeneutics and pragmatics and semantics and the deconstruction and sociology and psychology. Unless we can produce a kind of student that has both, it will be very difficult for us to go forward. You know, the Christians in modern times have produced characters like Al-Bab. His church dogmatics, if you put it on this table, it would be this size. Okay? And this was on elaborating Christian doctrine. Jewish theologians have also produced some large works, big works, very elaborate works. Even Buddhist scholars, like the Kyoto School, and we have some fellow Muslims from Kyoto, you know, have produced elaborate, works trying to expound what do they believe as Buddhists, what do the Christians believe as Christians, what do the Jews believe as Jews. The Muslims need to produce this kind of work. Yes, we do have, alhamdulillah, Sayyid Badi Zaman al-Nursi and Sahih Noor. Yes, we do have some great works by the Tunisian Sayyid Muhammad Taha bin Ashur, Tahrir al-Tanwir, and various other than Yes, we have many great Moroccan scholars. We do have some scholars, but Sayyid Iqbal Rahmatullah from Pakistan, but we need more. And I believe that Turkey has a very important role to play in this. You are at the hub of the universe in many ways. You are a place where people can come together, and this conference is a case in point. There are people from so many countries here to share, to talk, and I'm so happy that these awqaf are now able to take students from all over the world and give scholarships to students from all over the world. Because we need to revive Ilm al-Kalam. We also need to revive Usul al-Fiqh, so that people need to know Usul al-Fiqh thoroughly. They need to know all the classics of Usul al-Fiqh, from the Risala of Shafi'i to the works of Fakhr Razi to others on Usul al-Fiqh. But we also, these same people need to read Joseph Baz, the Oxford philosopher, and thus philosophy of law. And they need to know to read Dworkin and who studies constitutional law in the States. They need to know the latest in philosophy of law and be able to produce works that can talk to not just Muslims but to everybody on the remarkable art and science of usul al-fiqh. And with tasawwuf, we cannot, I mean, I love Inshad and it's great to sing along and Inshad is amazing, and I'm so happy that Turkey is able to preserve and elaborate this amazing art in Konya and other places. But tasawwuf itself, especially deep tasawwuf of the transcendental reflection type of the Muhyiddin Arabi level of tasawwuf. When was the last time we produced the Muhyiddin Arabi in the Muslim world? We need some people today who can talk about spirituality with such abundance that they can actually engage the spirituality of the latest Buddhists and the latest Christians and the latest Jews and be able to elaborate Muslim spirituality at a vast and elaborate manner. So, may Allah bless this country, inshallah, and all Muslim countries. I feel that there is a remarkable opportunity today. That is why I am so keen to be visiting Istanbul and beginning of February, inshallah, be able to lecture in the Muhammad Fan University, inshallah, as a visiting scholar. We need this communication, we need this networking. So, in order to have this civility, with the kind of Madaniyah that we talked about in the beginning, and in order to be able to produce the kinds of students we need, what we need the most is networking. Networking is very, very important. If there is something that the internet has taught us today, is the remarkable robustness of networked communities. The reason the internet is so strong is that it has no one center that tries to impose itself on everybody else. It's a network of networks. And through the very weakness of distribution, it has become very strong and resilient. We have remarkable people sitting, studying in the mountains of Morocco, and in the deserts of Mauritania, and in the mountains of Afghanistan, and in the forests of Indonesia and Malaysia, and in the many communities in Africa. But we're talking to each other very little, and we're not gathering our resources very little. Now, the interesting thing about networks is that we have a network memory in Islam. The memory of the Ummah is not only in Turkey, it is not only in Libya, it's not only in Al-Azhar, it is all over the place. And just as the computer tries to retrieve data from remarkably complex networks like as search engines, we will need to remember who we are by finding nuggets of lost memories that maybe are better remembered than other places. For example, nobody can do mutun and the hawashi in the Arabic language, for example, and the sciences of Arabic like the Mauritanians can. Yes. At the same time, in Diyarbakir, there are people who are still doing Sharh al-Maqasid, which has been lost in Egypt. Hardly anybody ever teaches that. At the same time, you will find the best shuruh of al-Barahin in the jungles of Indonesia, and the small madrasas there that were established by the Ba'alavis and the Haddads and the Hifshis. Okay? At the same time, you can find elements of this and that all over the place. I once met an Iraqi scholar who still knows how to do the Astorlab and the old mathematics through Sanad Muntas. This is very remarkable. If these centers, like the Center for Civilization and Dialogue, or the State University here with ISAM, or many of the other research centers in Turkey and other places, if we can help to network all these pieces of lost memory, so that we can begin to have students who know the full extent of the Muslim trust that we receive from the Abbasid period and the Seljuki period and the Ottoman period and the Mamluki period, and at the same time who are open to studying Immanuel Kant and who can do the latest in philosophy of mind and the philosophy of language and so on, then we will begin to have a flourishing, a civilization that is quite grand. And let us not think of civilization as imperialism, where we're not talking about the flourishing of another empire. This is where we're not looking for another Reich. This is not. We need to think of civilization as ecologies of peace, of compassion, of blessing. It is interesting that the Muslim says, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi وبركاته. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, أطعموا الطعام وأفشوا السلام. If you look, this أفشوا السلام, what is this notion of spreading peace? It is to actually develop communities that actually exhibit peace, existentially live peace, give peace, blessings. What we need is something like the Amazon forest in terms of colors and shades and diversity. What we need, people say that we need to preserve biodiversity. We also need to preserve spiritual diversity. We need to preserve scholarly diversity. If you look at the books of our great ulama, Sayyid al-Mutakallimun, during the best days of Islam, you will find that they were abundant in dialogue and discussion. فَإِن قُلْتُمْ قُلْنَا وَإِن قُلْتُمْ قُلْنَا. As a matter of fact, when you read their books, it's like hearing a conversation. It is what Mikhail Bakhtin, the Russian linguist, calls polyphony, having an abundance, a multiplicity of voices. And if you take one of the books of Aqidah today, you will find monologue. ينقسم إلى ألوهية وربوبية, and you have to follow very narrow school. If you don't follow Muhammad Abdul Wahhab's ideas, then you are mubtadi'. So entire ecologies of scholarship and learning are dismissed with one act. هو مخالف. لماذا؟ لأنه أشعري. People are now accusing the Ash'aris of being outside the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. This happens a little. Some people don't talk to me because I'm Ash'ari. They think it's bid'ah. Okay? This is crazy. That means somebody who thinks this is actually cutting out the entire library. The whole library is irrelevant, and reduces Islam to 5 books or 6 books. The Kitab Tawheed of Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab, a few books by Ibn Baz ibn Uthaymeen, rahmatullahi ala al-Jami', maybe a bit of Albani's books, and that's it. And that's supposed to be Islam. And this is translated into English, with funding from $100, and spread all over the place and peddled as Islam. It is like, in Indonesia and Malaysia, I lived in Malaysia for a year, I saw these dreadful scenes of people burning forests. They would burn this forest, and if you see a forest burning, it's astonishingly sad, because all the birds fly out, and all the multiple colored flowers die, and all the great trees come tumbling down, and then they have ash. And after the ash, they plant one type of commodity, rubber, or grain, or whatever, and it's all the same. We are doing the same thing to Islam, with this kind of theological idiocy. What we are doing is we are destroying the diversity, the bio-richness of Islam at the level of Kalam, at the level of Usul al-Fiqh, even at the level of Tasawwuf, reducing it to one shape, and one way, everybody else is wrong. This kind of narrow-mindedness is actually producing a very bland kind of Islam, an Islam that will not be able to compete. We will not be able to compete. You may be able to produce a fascist empire if you are lucky, okay? But you will not be able to produce a truly Muslim community, a civility, a madaniyah, as you wanted to discuss in this lecture or in this conference. You will not be able to produce a true civility. In order to do this, we need the dialogue, we need the discussion, we need the abundance, we need the diversity. It is nice that the Libyan is sitting next to a Turk. It is nice that the Japanese is sitting next to a Syrian. This is what we need. And I cannot even begin to tell you how much I appreciate the work that you do here, the fact that you're inviting all these people, and you're doing it in an unassuming way. If this was done in the Arab world, it would be a 5-star hotel, big conference, big cars, somebody meeting you at the airport with a Mercedes and everything else, and with the substance not in these simpler institutions, these awqaf with the simple rooms for the guests, the simple beautiful coffee, you are actually doing something that is a true revival, something that the Muslims knew how to do in the old days, that we forgot how to do through imposed nationalisms and imposed anti-religiosity and impose pseudo-religiosity. Like, I would hate for Libya to replace the pseudo-religiosity the anti-religiosity of Gaddafi with the pseudo-religiosity of some of these people who call themselves Salafis. For me, they're pseudo-Salafis, they're not truly Salafis. You know, how can you have somebody digging up graves in Timbuktu that are 500 years old? They're doing the same in Tunisia, they're doing the same in Libya. They actually dug up the grandfather of this man with your library and with your students and with your teachers, and it means that we are doing something, inshallah, nice. The resilience of Islam is the fact that when you press it in one area, it comes out from the other. The resilience of Islam has to do with distribution. That is all over the place. And you cannot destroy it because it's for two reasons. It's distributed and it's made of indestructible stuff, which is called nur, light. This nur that comes from the Qabd al-Asliya, where Allah Azza wa Jalla said in the Hadith, spread the nur in the entire universe. And whoever receives this nur is saved. So that even the horse doesn't step on its offspring because of this nur that is rahmah. This nur that is kindness. This nur is all over the place. And alhamdulillah, when there is a musibah or repression in one area, Muslims find a way of circumventing it and coming to the other place. So it is nice that this Shaykh is able to share his asanid, which are the most revered and most trusted asanid in Libya, to share them with students in Istanbul from all over the place. And the fact that he can here take from the asanid of the Ottoman madrasas, which were preserved in Diyarbakir or in some of the more remote areas, so that we can again bring ourselves together. You know, some people say, why don't we have this, why don't we have that, why is Islam in such trouble? I say to them, you're expecting too much. We are like somebody who's been hit by a car. You know, we have amnesia, we have severe injuries, we are bleeding, maybe lost a limb or two, and people are blaming us, why aren't you producing good speeches? Why aren't you writing good books? Well, we're not, because we have been hit. We've been hit several times. We've been hit through colonialism, we've been hit through our own idiotic anti-religious nationalists, we've been hit through our own ignoring and self-denying of our identity, we've been hit by our arrogance, we've been hit by many things. And we need to realize that we are injured. The condition of possibility for being healed is to accept that you are injured. And to accept that you need to go to the doctor. And there is no better doctor than Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And what does Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam give you? He gives you the medicine of rahmah. He gives you the medicine of the Quran, which is shifa. He gives you the guidance that comes from Allah Azza wa Jalla. It is by submitting the heart to Allah and accepting that we are broken, accepting that we are weak, accepting that we are confused, and using each other to guide each other. Al-Mu'min mir'at al-Mu'min. I may be not very good at seeing my faults, but Ustaz Rajab, he knows all my faults. He can see my faults. So he tells me, because we're friends, so he tells me, you have this fault, this fault, this fault. And I try to see his faults. I can't find them, of course. But I also tell him when I see one or two. Meaning, if we are mirrors for each other, we can keep each other honest. We need each other. Nobody has all the answers today. Nobody can just open a book and impose the answer on everybody else. We need to search for the answers. We need to do this through loving discussion, respectful discussion. We may differ on many things, but we must maintain the respect. The Mashayikh used to teach the books of Adab al-Bahth wal-Munadara. And Sayyid Shaykh here has Sanad Muttasil in this. Read with him, because the Adab al-Bahth wal-Munadara teaches you the manners of discussion. Today they call it pragmatics in linguistics, and even though they say it's not normative, only descriptive, so they're not even teaching you the adab. But if you take pragmatics and you take the adab al-Bahth wal-Munadara, maybe you can produce in your thesis for the PhD an adab al-Bahth wal-Munadara using the latest pragmatics theories as well. You know, we need this. You know, in Libya we've had a revolution now for a year and a half, and many people are talking. but very few people are talking to each other. People are talking past each other, but not to each other. Why? Because to truly have a genuine discussion, you need to realize that you don't know. You need to realize that you need the wisdom of the other. Humility is a precondition for listening. If you feel that you've got it, if you feel that you have everything, if you feel that you understand, you will want to preach to others, but you will not be listening to others. I say this, and I'm preaching to you all this time and not listening enough. But what is very important is to realize that not all talk is dialogue. You can have many monologues by the side of each other, and it does not constitute dialogue. Dialogue is when you empty the heart and be willing to receive, not just give, and to recognize that actually what happens in genuine dialogue is a kind of tasbih and dhikr. There is a famous hadith where Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says that when people gather to glorify Allah Azza wa Jal, تَتَنَزَّلُ عَلَيْهِمُ السَّكِينَةُ. The Sakina comes down. This is a beautiful thing. What this ummah needs is Sakina. And this Sakina can only be achieved through this remarkable phenomenon of collective dhikr, what Shaykh Badi' Zaman-Nufsi calls Sirr al-Tasanut. This Tasanut in dhikr, in abundance of invocation of Allah's greatness, and in the collective recognition that we do not know, that He knows and we do not know. وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ وَأَنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. That we are weak, that there is no hawl, capacity, or quwwah, power, illa billah. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Once we know this collectively, and we do what can be termed a collective tawbah, a collective going back to Allah Azza wa Jal with broken hearts, so that we ask for His help and we ask for each other's help, only then can true civilization happen. Only then can a true madaniyat happen. Only then can a true tapping into the very Medina of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam happen. And as for change, I don't want to speak anything about change, because in many ways, despite all the appearances of new phenomena, many phenomena are repeats. You know, just one simple example, and I conclude with this, so we have half an hour for discussion. The Umar Nasafi Aqidah at the beginning of it, he says, rahmatullahi alayhi, حقائق الأشياء ثابتة والعلم بها متحقق خلافا للسلطة. Now, حقائق الأشياء ثابتة, the truth of things, the concrete reality of things, is established, ثابتة, it's there. والعلم بها متحقق, and knowledge is possible. Knowledge is real. خلافا للسلطة. This is in opposition to the source. Imam Taftazani rahmatullahi alayhi in Sharh on Aqa'id then explains what Subsatari is, what sophistry is, and says that it is of three types: Indiyya, Inadiyya, Wala Adiyya. Indiyya is to say, for me it's like this, for you it's like that. It's what they call today relativism. Inadiyya is to stubbornly just hold on to your view, dogmatism, now we call it. And the idea is to simply say there is no possibility of knowledge, to give up. Skepticism, we call it. If you go to the bookshop, any bookshop, and buy the latest philosophy books, from Derrida to Foucault and these fashionable French philosophers, and Colin Gould and Ryle and Wittgenstein, and you read, you can actually, if you put these three categories, you can put them in one of these three. Most of them are Indiyya, most of them are relativists. Some are skeptic, and some are Inadiyya, The number of scholars who still believe in reality and the truth is so small. It's basically Edmond Husserl, Brentano, maybe Manon, okay? You can count them. Maybe there are a dozen scholars that still believe in realism and the possibility of knowledge. The Muslim civilization, the true Madaniyat of Islam, is so much needed by humanity, because it is a civilization that can preserve reality, can preserve the possibility of knowledge, can respect the limits that Allah has put for His creatures. These hududullah, فَلَا تَقْرَبُوهَا. These are limits, there are limits. You cannot have any system without any limits. Not in physics and not in ethics. You cannot just have a civilization where anything goes. You need these limits. elaborating these limits in ways that the world today can understand and appreciate is a huge challenge. This challenge cannot be met through this kind of conference. And that is why I thank you from the bottom of my heart for the invitation of our colleagues who I wouldn't have met had it not been for this invitation, and for your patience and the time you have taken to listen to this course. So may Allah guide us throughout His life, and may Allah bless the proceedings of this conference and help us to learn from each other, and most importantly to learn from Him, and to have the inheritance of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, al-ulama warathatul anbiya. This wirata comes collectively, and we need each other to be able to receive this wirata. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد. اقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولكافة المسلمين ولا حول ولا قوة الا بالله العلي العظيم. Thank you very much for